Alright, hello and welcome back to Ashgabat Cats. Let's play that. Today we're taking a look at Pac-Man. But not Pac-Man for the arcade, not even Pac-Man for the Nintendo, Pac-Man for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. This is quite the blast for the past. Now, right before we begin, let's explain a little bit about what a Neo Geo Pocket Color is. Basically, it's a Game Boy Color type object developed by SNK, the same people who make the King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, a bunch of other sweet things, and released the Neo Geo. So they decided, hey, let's make our own Game Boy. Now, there's a reason you haven't heard of it, because it was, well, it was fine. But, alright, so let's see how Pac-Man turned out on it. Let's go with scroll, because we love those full pixel art. And then we'll try full screen. And then we'll try to make up our mind on, is this a good version of Pac-Man? Well, already, Pac-Man controls like a dream, which is not quite something I can say for the arcades. I mean, arcade Pac-Man is okay, and like, it's great, but like, that has awfully stringent timings on like when Pac-Man can actually change directions. And actually getting the feel of Pac-Man to a good feel for Pac-Man can be somewhat tricky. You have to balance, like, do you want authentic or do you want, like, you know, good? So a bit about the Neo Geo Pocket Color. It's a Game Boy Color type object developed by SNK, the same people behind the Neo Geo. But well, it didn't do great. And so eventually they made their ways to the bargain bins of various electronic wholesalers, and so that's how I acquired a Neo Geo. We're not actually playing my Neo Geo Pocket right now, but I mean, I've still got it. It's hanging out in my room. It was a fun little game system. I mean, honestly, that was my introduction to fighting games. If I hadn't had that Neo Geo Pocket Color, then I wouldn't really know anything about fighting games, actually. I might think that Street Fighter was still a good game. Ugh, no forward dash, no running, not a good game. I don't like it. I need that forward hop from King of Fighters. It's absolutely necessary. But this version of Pac-Man, well, unfortunately, you're tasked with the devil's choice of, do you want to see everything in full pixely detail, or do you want to see everything all at once? And you can't really have both, because again, you're playing on a Game Boy Color type thing. Now, the screen is actually pretty good, because like if you look at the Game Boy Color, it doesn't have any more resolution than the original Nintendo. In fact, it has less resolution, and so you're essentially playing like a portable Nintendo, which at the time was pretty great, but as time went on, then people could see like what kind of was lacking and where all the flaws were. Now, this Game Boy Color, well, okay. Oh, it even has all of the specs on it. So the pixel format is 160 by 152, and it's a TFT liquid display screen. How handy of it to give us the stats on the thing itself. And so, I mean, oh cool, it's even got the little cutscenes. I haven't really seen those much before because I'm maybe not that great at Pac-Man. Oh man, for a second there I thought it was a fruit smorgasbord in the lower right hand corner, but nope, that is the stuff of temptations. And so you might be thinking to yourself, hey, this looks way better than a Game Boy Color. Why did this system fail? And that's because it was released sort of around the Game Boy Advance. Now, to their credit, it was like a year or 3 before the Game Boy Advance, but I mean, the writing was on the wall. Like, you release a Game Boy Color around the time of Game Boy Advance, and people just start laughing at you, no matter how many SNK fighting games you have on it. And so a little bit more about those fighting games. You see that circle stick on the right hand, in the right? On the left, sorry. Whoa, left. That is a clicky stick. And so it does a passable job of emulating the arcade experience, but this is all on like a Game Boy Color. In fact, I've always kind of jonesed for a controller with the same sort of clicky stick. It's very loud, but it's very satisfying. It's micro switches, goes in a circle, makes a lot of clicks. I don't know if you've ever seen one actually. They're fairly uncommon. And well, judging by reviews on Amazon for this particular controller I'm taking a look at, not well liked. But I don't know. Personally, I kind of like it. It's really nice because you get like, well, it's incredibly clear when a direction is engaged. It's not quite like a mushy PlayStation control pad, or well, so if you've ever used an arcade stick, like, it makes it click when you're going in that direction, so you know exactly when you're pressing enough. If you're just playing on a D-pad, like I guess I am right now. Huh. I'm playing on a Super Nintendo gamepad right now, which, well, I guess that goes to show who the ultimate victor was, and it wasn't SNK. But there it's maybe a little bit ambiguous, like when have you fully engaged the D-pad? Oh, okay. I can see the spots. Am I dead yet? Yep, game over. That's it for that one. Oh, wow, okay. So, let's try full screen. Oh, okay. This is actually pretty passable. I mean, the graphics aren't, like, full-scale amazing, but, like, let's be realistic. Pac-Man is a relatively simple game. You can get the whole idea. Man, I remember Pac-Man Fever in the schools, even. We would play on these little, like, washer rollerboards, and we'd all scoot around pretending to play Pac-Man. And this was, like, an officially school-sanctioned activity. Like this was just during gym class. Everybody was doing it. The teacher came out and said, "Hey guys, let's do some Pac-Man." I mean, obviously we were kids in the 90s. We were like cheering like crazy. But like, well, that's just incredibly weird. Now, you know something's gone mainstream when you do it in school. And so, yeah, I mean, let's see. So I was looking at like cheapo little handhelds from like Radio Shack even, that could simulate the Pac-Man experience, and they were way, way worse than this. So if you gave me, in the early 90s, this Pac-Man game, I would be absolutely delighted, and I would play it every day. Now, part of that would be because you gave me a piece of technology from the future. Now, I think this came out in late 90s, where it was less impressive, but still kind of neat. Now, we're seeing the screen on a backlit LCD display, and so that is great, but back on the actual console itself, it is not backlit at all. So you're running into the same sorts of problems you have with the Game Boy Color, and, well, frankly, even the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, the Game Boy Advance could do a lot of things, but the original one, well, I honestly like that form factor a little bit better than the SP, but the SP was backlit, and honestly, that just makes a world of difference. You can't get away from that. That is absolutely necessary. But anyway, owning a Neo Geo Pocket Color, it's kind of interesting. And like games for it, well, they would also sell games. Well, okay, so I bought this at like an electronics wholesaler, and it was an official Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is the most surprising thing at all. Like there was the time when I bought an N64 looking thing at a county fair that later turned out to be a collection of a whole bunch of Nintendo Entertainment System games. That was very clearly not legitimate. But I bought like a completely legitimate Neo Geo Pocket Color at a store. Yeah, I kind of feel like the original Pac-Man game wouldn't let you go like back automatically, but this one, it's like no, you want to, you can flip back and forth. So already we're getting the new modern day butter smooth Pac-Man. I feel like it's kind of like changes in design. I mean, when Pac-Man came out, obviously it wasn't the first video game, but it was kind of the first video game, so people were still kind of, you know, figuring things out, working things out. And so anyway, I bought this Neo Geo Pocket Color, like, completely from this electronics wholesaler. Like, it came wrapped up in a package, not like a box, like you're buying a Game Boy Advance or something. Comes in an official box, buying it from a real store. This was like plastic and shrink wrapped, and was like, it didn't say on the outside, hey, we made way too many of these guys, why don't you buy one for cheap? But like, it was sort of implied. And it came with a few games. Oh, game over already. We didn't even make it to the cutscene. Well, that sucks. And so it came up with, And so it also came with like a few games. And so actually, I hear they sold like game packs for it in the same sort of like shrink wrapped buy 5 at once sort of packaging. And so those games, you look on eBay, cheap, super cheap. But if you want the good games for this system, now there weren't a terribly many good games, and the games that are, well, I don't know if you'd say they're good in an absolute sense. They're definitely way better than anything else on this thing, but I mean, well, so I think one that comes to mind, Facelli, it's kind of interesting. You're like building your own mech, and then you have to actually program in like the movement. Well, we'll see if we get to that. And I hear it's a good game, but I don't know if it's a good game in an absolute sense, or if it's a good game in a Neo Geo Pocket Color sense. And so, well, I bought it, and I was introduced to all this honestly, that was my introduction to the whole Neo Geo ecosystem at large. I mean, yeah, I had played like arcade games in the arcades before, and I enjoyed a few rounds of Metal Slug at the local skating rink, but it wasn't until I actually had a Neo Geo Pocket Color in my hands that I actually felt like a sense of ownership of the Neo Geo. Like, a weird thing about arcade cabinets is they almost seem like they're a public good. Like, you go out and have fun with them and you play, but then you go home and, like, you may legitimately never think about it ever again. Now, some games are just so amazing. Like, you play Dungeons & Dragons Shadows over Mystara, that game will stay in your mind, and that will stay with you for the rest of your life and make you Jones for, like, that sort of side-scrolling Dungeons & Dragons beat-em-up for the rest of your life. But you play a game like, I don't know, Wherein Clone 3, and, like, yeah, you can have your fun, you can make the screen explode with a bunch of flashing lights and all that, but then you go home and you're like, what did I do all day? Where are all my quarters? And you won't necessarily remember that. Or it's kind of like you walk down the street and you see like a street lamp or something, and it might be like the most well-designed, best architecturally made street lamp, but it's still just like a street lamp. It's like kind of boring. You see them every day. Arcade games are perhaps something similar. But once I had my own Neo Geo, quote, Pocket Color, then I kind of came up with an appreciation for all that. So the Neo Geo Pocket Color was, I don't know, it's not something I experienced in the correct way, I suppose, in the correct chronological way, but it was something that I really enjoyed, and I guess in a weird, it sounds weird to say this, but I guess it changed my life. I guess that brings us very obliquely back to this game. So this game is Pacman, and I mean, it's a fairly good port of Pacman. It is Pacman, nothing more, nothing less. No museums, no unlockables, no options actually. All you can choose is pixel perfect or scrunched on the screen. Honestly, you could go with either way. I actually kind of like the full screen because it looks like the Neo Geo Pocket Color has like enough resolution that you can actually see everything, and everything looked pretty clear. Like, you can see everything in sort of a pixel perfect manner. Sometimes if a screen like isn't even long enough, like when the Game Boy Advance, like when there were the Nintendo classics for the Game Boy Advance, those ones, like the Game Boy Advance screen just was not long enough to, it didn't have enough vertical pixels to show an entire Nintendo Entertainment System screen. And so those ones kind of looked a little scrunched, but not in like an integer way, in like a non-integer way, and that's kind of yucky, you know? It's kind of wacky. But this, no, it's pixel perfect-ish. I mean, I'm sure they had to, like, rescale things or whatever, but, like, they did a good job of it. Of course, I'm pretty sure this game was probably, like, $40 back in the day, and then you have to ask yourself, it's like, I just bought a Neo Geo Pocket Color. Do I really want to waste my $40 on Pacman when I could buy Metal Slug Adventure or King of Fighters? Now, one thing to look forward to for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, though, there was a Sonic game released for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. So what could that be like? You know, I wonder what that could be like. I think I played it like once briefly, but not in any sort of depth. So I too am curious. What is the Sonic game for Neo Geo Pocket Color like? Is it me, or has Pac-Man gotten into the exact same scrapes the exact same time? Maybe it's different. I haven't quite been able to tell, but he does seem to be doing things very similarly. So if you have any sort of interest at all in looking at the Neo Geo Pocket Color, keep watching. I'll try to feature one of these every now and again. Of course, the system chosen will be random, and it's approximately 1/8 chance of being chosen, but that's fine, because there are only something like 80, 83, 82 Neo Geo Pocket Color games, so there aren't that many games to go through. But yeah, something to look forward to. And on that note, this cat's got a scat.